Hello, how's it going? Today we're going to be looking at this thing right here that is on the wall. And yes, it is a big garishly blue bit of plywood with some percussive beaters on it. This is another project from the Mr. Stockdale Theatrone. Mr. Stockdale, being a DIY electronic organ enthusiast, built a whole kind of theatre organ setup into 2 sheds in his back garden. It had 2 very rare Compton organs in the middle and then a bunch of other random instruments here, there and everywhere. Lucien Nunez recovered it a couple of years ago, and the organs have gone over to the East Midlands Cinema Organ Association to be restored because they're actually one-offs. One of them is the first ever electronic organ in the UK. But all of the other stuff, including the percussion and all the speakers, Leslie speakers, this, that and the other, are all with This Museum's Not Obsolete, and it's my job to kind of wire them all back together and make them working again. We've modified the vibraphone to be controllable via MIDI, as well as the glockenspiel, the Kreuzeglot. Then with 4 of the Leslie speakers, we made a quadraphonic Leslie speaker setup, which is actually around us. The next one in the project is this piece of plywood up here. What the fudge is it? Well, this is actually the tubular bells. One sec, I'm going to jump down. Yeah, so tubular bells. We're going to do it the way it was set up by Mr. Stockdale, which is delightfully DIY. If you see on these pictures, the tubular bells were bolted to the wall. The beater bar was screwed directly into the wall underneath, and then there was a couple of shelving brackets with a bit of wood, and then the tubular bells were hanging from them to be hit by the beaters below. The issue I had is I couldn't find the bit of wood on the top, sadly, but the rest of it was there. So what I did was I built this thing. So let's have a chat about this first.
I started by sensually cutting this piece of plywood 2 meters by 1 meter. After that, I measured the height of the beaters to figure out how far off the tubular bells needed to be from the back plate so I could put this on. But I found it wasn't strong enough, so I made these A-frame bits that connected to the side to add a bit of strength. I know what you're thinking, Sam. This looks as rough as a dog's ass, but that's fine because you just paint thicker paint onto it. As you can see, I went for the Stockdale Special Sky Blue, placed on the beaters, and then screwed that in, and luckily with all of the Stockdale projects, all of the wires are pretty good, so we just get the MIDI converter that I've done in a load of other videos. This circuit board basically transfers the signals from a keyboard into triggering those solenoids, and it's a circuit board I've designed initially for Joans Organ, and you could download the circuit board files if you want to make your own and use it with your own organ or tubular bells. Some of the beaters were broken, but luckily it was a standard size of dowel, so I picked up some from the hardware store and then cut it up and put the beater heads back on, plopped them in, and they were as good as new. They looked basically exactly the same. Anyway, some of these rubber bits had perished. Luckily, I had some spare from the Stockdale spare parts box, and I plopped them in, and yeah, this was all pretty straightforward. This is a 3D printed holder for the MIDI socket. The MIDI socket is the wire that you plug in from your keyboard or computer or whatever, and here is one for the power. We wire those into the circuit board as well. Then we upload the code, which is also available on my website, so you can program it as well, and then as you can see, it's starting to work. Some of these needed a little bit of fine-tuning because they probably hadn't been used in quite a while, but all in all, it was just about adjusting the travel so they always moved on time. Anyway, Mitch came along and gave us a hand getting it up onto the wall because this is about 3.5 meters up, so it's nice and out of reach for visitors at the museum.
So now it's on the wall and wired into the MIDI. I've got some hooks and string and tubular bells, so we best get all of those bolted in and we can see what it sounds like. It's up here. We've got the longest beater, number G. We've got the number G? Note G. We've got 2 hooks, and what we're going to do now is we're going to get the G, which is this long dong. Hopefully, with any luck, this is going to be kind of straightforward, but I have some funny idea that it won't be. So I'm just going to find out where we need to hang it. Oh God. I know this is quite a simple solution, but it's how Mr. Stockdale did it. And if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Well, that was easy. Problem is I'm all the way up here, and all the blooming bells are down there. Oh, I don't think I'm gonna make that jump, so yeah, let's wiggle it down. Let's get down. Oh yeah. Right, let's get cracking.
Then you do it again, 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 then you do it again until they're all of the Stockdale instruments have these labels on it, so it felt right to put one of them onto the tubular bells because they don't have one.
Get it up there. Oh, yes. Make sure it's straight, Sam. Oh, yeah. Tubular bells. Beautiful. So all of the bells are now up on the wall, and amazingly enough, we've got this MS-10, and if you listen to it, it's kind of a tune.
You can download the full version of this track and 2 others from this video over on my Patreon, and some samples. Anyway. This is what they sound like when you play them all at the same time. Anyway, what does it sound like when we take another Stockdale special? This is my personal favourite of all of these instruments so far. A lot of people come to the museum and say that they like the vibraphone too. It's so soft and lovely. Anyway, we play this, and we also play a modular synthesizer patch going through the Leslie speakers. Sounds like it's going round your head. Wiggly, wiggly. And we play that with a sequence on the bells. I guess, something like this. Sort of sounds like Linkin Park in a weird way. Not that bit. Anyway, let's have a listen. Now I can already read the comments here. Why don't you play tubular bells on it? It's tubular bells with tubular bells. Well, okay, let's give it a go.
Who knows what this will sound like?
That was my impression of an organ.
So Mr. Stockdale's tubular bells are now up there. As you can see, the Glott and the Glockenspiel are up there next to it now as well also. We're going to be putting the rest of the Stockdale instruments around here as well, so it can all be played via a MIDI console, along with Joans Organ that's over there and the Compton organ that's over here and a bunch of other things. These tubular bells are by no means perfect. They're delightfully, endearingly DIY. The design inherently has got a kind of a big flaw. If the back rows rock a little bit, the front beaters end up tapping them with their sticks. We could probably stagger them, but that means I'm gonna have to dismantle it completely. It's how Mr. Stockdale built it, and it's just something to keep in mind if you're gonna be playing with it. Every instrument has its quirks, and that is one of those. I need to work on the voicing a little bit more. Some of the beaters need a little bit more felt on them, so when they hit the bells, it's a little bit softer. In fact, when I was figuring out how this worked, I found all of the beaters to be put on backwards. It seems that Mr. Stockdale at some point in time turned it around to be only wood hitting the tubular bells, making it a much more harsh sound. But if you look in the pictures, the amount of speakers in there, maybe it was because it was so loud in there that this was kind of like a bit of a top end tinny bit instead of more of a, you know, the kind of soft round sound that you'd expect from a bell. It was more like a ding ding on the top of all those speakers. Who knows? Anyway, that's it for this video. There's 3 full tracks available that you can download. There was a couple of clips in this video over on Patreon, and in the next couple of days I'm going to be uploading some samples that I've got from this, including some riffs and also some single hits. So if you want any of that and much more, and also want to support these videos and the projects that are in them, then please go check out on Patreon, because it really helps, because a lot of this stuff is quite time consuming and can be a little bit expensive in materials. So if you are a Patreon, thank you very much, because the support really helps make these videos frequent. Anyway, that's it from me and the Tubular Bells. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to try it. Toodle-doo, toodle-doo, toodle-doo.